Sorry.
I'm sorry. We're trying to remember all the different things we want to plug. Actually, this week, on November 30th, is the college planning night. It's actually here at the Ridge High School PAC from 7 to 9 p.m. Talking about SAT, ACT, subject tests, test prep, college admissions, planning calendars, finding the right colleges, and evaluating transcripts. So that is November 30th at 7 p.m. here at the PAC.
So many.
So many things.
Yeah, there are. Okay. So we're now up to the ad hoc SEL committee report. And the ad hoc SEL committee met on November 16th. And we had several agenda items. So we talked a bit about the National Honor Society. And the committee discussed the need for better and more accessible information about the National Honor Society on the Ridge website. Information is currently in the Ridge Student Handbook, the Ridge PTO Handbook for 2017, and on the NHS Advisors websites. Committee members proposed adding National Honor Society information to the student activity page on the Ridge website. We also briefly discussed SEL-related concerns about the rotating drop schedule, and Mr. Markarian is adding slides to the December 18th board presentation about the social emotional benefits of the rotating drop schedule for students and staff. The next item was senior meetings and transcripts. Ms. Shadis said that Naviance now allows transcripts to be sent to colleges without the counselor letter, which means transcripts can be sent to colleges earlier. The secondary school report needs to be sent with the transcript. Ridge counselors currently start sending transcripts on approximately September 20th. Counselors wait until the end of the ad drop period so that the student's course list is accurate. For colleges with summer rolling admissions deadline, a transcript could be mailed. The student would need to supply a stamped and addressed envelope and may have to pay a fee. Ms. Shadis said that counselors have never missed an October 15th or November 1st deadline, and that the Aspen problems that we had this fall would hopefully no longer be an issue next year. We talked about publicity for SEL-related events. So a list of events and presentations for parents is available on the district website. However, flyers are needed for district events, and announcements need to be pushed out to parents. The need for a one-way Facebook page was briefly discussed as a possibility. Some recently added events are the Nurtured Heart Part 2 on December 4th. There's a Smartphone Smart presentation on March 21st, 2018. And on June 14th, 2018, how to navigate your freshman year at college. And this, I'm sure this list will also be continually updated over the course of the year. So kind of watch the space. And then we talked about smartphone use at Ridge High School. And currently, the use of smartphones during class at Ridge is determined by the individual teacher. Some students use their phones to do research or other work during class. If more Ridge classrooms are equipped with Chromebooks, students would not need to use their phones. Smartphones can be distracting for students, and committee members would like teachers to encourage students to place their phones in a phone hotel during class if they're not being used for instructional purposes. Students are permitted to use their phones in the hallways and at lunch, and our next meeting is on December 21st at 8 a.m. Okay. Mr. Byrne?
Yeah, I have a comment on the SEL committee. I think many of the topics that you're considering are topics that the full board would benefit from a discussion of. And it bothers me that you're focusing on things like homework and the National Honor Society and stuff. It's really, in my opinion, social media, drugs, early signs of suicide, and I'm sure you're covering those items too. But I think some of the topics that you're covering should be at the full board, so, and for the public's benefit as well. So that's my 2 cents. I think what you're doing is good, but I think the focus ought to be on suicide and some of the other topics brought to the full board.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a question, but I'm going to make a comment first. I think that you're missing the point, Mr. Byrne, and that is that the things that the students find stressful are the things that lead to a place of anxiety or despair that might result in thoughts of suicide. It's not just to be a committee talking about, as you said, suicide, but to be a committee that's collecting information on concerns that come through different either parents or students about what is causing students stress and anxiety so that perhaps the schools can better address those concerns and alleviate some of those stresses. My question is about the June 14th date that you just shared. Is that for parents or for students?
That would be both.
If I can make a comment, that's awfully late. Those seniors are going to be in full graduation party mode. So if we want anyone to come, we might want to reconsider a slightly earlier date.
Okay. All right, so thank you, Karen. Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Okay, so now we are up to public comments on non-agenda items. So if anyone has a comment on any topic, come up, sign in, and please keep your comments to 5 minutes. Okay. All right, oh, here comes someone. Okay.
Hi, my name is Brian Dobby, 316 Potomac Drive, Basking Ridge, a father of two in the school system here. Just want to make a couple points. It's my first meeting I've attended. Thank you all for your service. Mr. Burns, I just wanted to say that I agree with so many things you said tonight. I think learning has gone from the mind to a computer, and I think we're missing the boat a little bit on this. I don't see how kids in kindergarten through 5th grade need Chromebooks. I would much prefer to see kids develop their own mind, thinking for themselves. And from what I saw from my daughters in school, I do not know what a kid in kindergarten through 5th grade needs a Chromebook for. I can see it in the higher levels, obviously. So something to consider in your proposal tonight. The other observation I'd like to bring out is I went to a football game, and I hadn't been to a football game in years, and I noticed in the stands that the left-hand section was the senior girls, and my first observation was most of these girls had sports bras on with leggings, and I'm like, wow, football attendance has really changed since when I went to high school. So it caught my eye. I'm like, what's the message here that the student body is trying to give out, and does the school system agree with this? So I just thought, with all the stresses that kids go through today, growing up and stuff, is that something they really need to be a part of and displaying in our school system? So just something to think about. The other thing is option 2, where students get to get out of a gym class because they do some kind of other activity, dance or whatever. I really think that's missing the boat on kids' physical development in school. That should be something that should be mandatory, considering that 25% of kids today are obese, and physical fitness just seems to be going out the wayside in school systems. So I really think that's an option too. It just doesn't make sense to me. Those are some of my observations. Thanks for your service.
Anyone else? Okay. So I'll close public comments. And now we're up to board forum. So do you want to go? You wanna go ahead?
So I just would ask if we could take a few minutes to get some feedback from the board, maybe go around and share your thoughts a little bit about the work that's been going on. I know you shared some comments and questions earlier when Mr. Miziak and Mr. Blinder were presenting. But I think it would be helpful going forward as we start to get into the meat of budget season this winter, just to get a sense from you as to whether or not you're supportive of trying to make some room in the budget for our proposal to do more with the technology in the schools. Obviously, there are different scenarios and different things that were presented tonight, but each of them has a price tag that we would have to work to try to manage within the budget. So I'm curious if you could give me your feedback as to whether or not you'd like us to continue to move forward in trying to make room in the budget to pursue our technology proposal. So if you could let me know your thoughts, I'd like to know where I need to try to work on the budget.
Okay, so I apologize for having a written statement, but I really enjoyed the classroom visits, and I didn't want to leave anything out that I felt was an important observation. So first, I want to thank the administrators and teachers for inviting us into the classrooms. The board is charged with making decisions that will benefit all learners in our schools, and there's no better way to determine the advisability of a large investment like this than to see how the devices are being put to use in the classrooms and to witness the students' own experiences with them. I visited 2 classrooms at each building level for a total of 6 classrooms, and I went in with a substantial concern about the dangers of overuse of technology, because I think that screen addiction is a real phenomenon in our society that is negatively impacting the lives of an increasing number of our youth. Technological devices are attractive to students, and I feel there is a danger of devices becoming a substitute for the face-to-face interaction, socialization, and personal attention from teachers that should be occurring in our classrooms. From the visits, however, I want to mention a few of the many benefits I noticed. Students especially seem to appreciate the self-paced aspect of accessing content on the devices. The ability to pause and restart, to spend more time on something that is more challenging for them, stopping to take notes and write questions down to ask the teacher later. Students seem to like the way the use of technology mixes up the classroom experience, providing options for working independently and with others. Teachers liked the immediate feedback and differentiation of instruction that many programs like 10 Marks for Math provide to the students. Among the challenges that use of the devices present, first and foremost was the obvious need for excellent keyboarding skills, particularly for use in language arts. Stress-free use of the devices in most classes relies on a student feeling capable of typing faster than he or she can write. In other words, on having keyboarding fluency. I feel that the use of the devices below the 4th grade level can cause more frustration than benefit. I don't consider this a problem to be solved by pushing keyboarding instruction younger. Rather, I think we teach keyboarding at the developmentally appropriate time in 3rd grade, and we should reserve extensive use of laptops until the 4th grade. Another issue I noticed is that students dislike the lag time to log in and to upload completed work. I think this was confirmed tonight prior to the meeting. This led to students feeling that turning in paperwork was more reliable, and they were actually stressed out by having to upload at the end of a period and not knowing if they made it before it was time to exit the classroom. So I don't know what things regarding network capacity or whatever would be used to improve that situation, but I think if we're going to expand this to even more and more devices, that's a priority. In terms of our district providing the devices versus the bring your own technology, providing devices to each classroom removes the difficulties of the teacher of reserving sufficient devices and removes the responsibility from students of bringing a fully charged operating laptop to school each day. Computers today are like chalk slates or pencils of bygone days. They are a tool of the modern classroom and workplace that is nearly essential is clearly beneficial when used appropriately. Appropriate use is a concern I still have, however. I would like to see guidelines for the amount that the devices are used in the classroom. Some of the best uses I witnessed were combined with paper and pencil activities at all grade levels and were done with partners or groups of other students. The social skills were being enhanced through the activities, not sidelined by them. I would like to see curriculum development for incorporating the use of devices in the most beneficial ways that would be shared across the grade level and the subject level. I think we should make it a priority to deliver the benefits of this costly proposition equally to all students. And the cost of curriculum development should be factored in to the cost of expanding use of the devices. I'd prefer, based on what I heard tonight, the WAMs roll out first, because I believe that only grades 4 and 5 really need the devices at a one-to-one level in the elementary schools, and we probably already have enough devices to cover that. I think a lot of Ridge High students already have better devices than the ones we're planning to provide, and most parents are going to provide their high school student in our district with a laptop for homework and for college applications, whether we have devices provided in school or not. And that's why I would start with the middle school, where, by the way, I saw one of the most exciting class uses in a science class and could not get over the enthusiasm created by the use of the devices. So there's so much available now out there, and you know, we will be falling behind if we don't take advantage compared to other districts of, you know, this technology.
Thank you, Dr. Dunn. Mrs. Gray, did you have some comments?
I wish I had a clear opinion. I will say this, I'm still struggling with the logistical side of this. For example, the concern about not starting with the high school because of allowing notice to parents. I tend to agree with Dr. Dunn that I think parents are going to provide their kids with a computer at home regardless, especially if there's limitations on this, and not to be frivolous, but kids watch Netflix, so there's going to be that always, and that's not what this is about. But I think understanding either we're sending the device home with the kids or we're not, and if we're not sending the device home with them, then they're going to need a computer at home anyway. So I kind of see that as a negating factor in the ability to start at the high school. So I don't understand from today whether or not we are definitively for or against a proposal that sends the devices home with the high school students. So I guess I still need more information, because we said that the community is not in favor of that, but then we talked about the possibility of assigning the devices or not having carts. So I still feel there's confusion there. And I would like to kind of piggyback off of something else that Dr. Dunn said. I do agree with her about third grade. We both visited the same third grade classroom for a language arts lesson, and it was clear that a good percentage of those students were struggling with the actual keyboarding skills, and it was a writing lesson. So they needed to be writing, and they didn't have pen or pencil in their hand with paper, so I can't attest to how quickly they would have written, but it did look like a struggle.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have the same reaction to the third grade thing, because the back of my head still feels like we're focused on third grade having, developing these skills in order to take park or something, and that bothers me, because, what is developmentally appropriate versus what we have to do. So I do have concerns about that. So my thoughts overall is that I have some reservations about whether we need more than what we already have at the elementary schools, with the exception of Mount Prospect that doesn't have nearly as much as the other schools. I feel like I don't know that we need one-to-one per se in the upper grades, just enough access. So I'm kind of on the fence about third grade and how much access they need. So I really do prefer the WAMs first model, because I feel like I think the elementary schools, if we moved some of the older Chromebooks, we could see how it goes the first year with that level, and like track the usage a little bit more in the upper grades in the elementaries to see what the needs are. So I like the WAMS first model. I have some of the same concerns about the high school. I feel like I do think the kids are going to have a device at home regardless, because they're not going to want to use the school device for everything at home. So although I think parents would need advance warning, you wouldn't want someone to buy their kid a laptop thinking they have to have it for school and then find out they could have maybe gotten away with, using a Chromebook at school and a desktop at home. I think, I don't know that Ridge has to be put off really far down the road. Maybe it could even be second, I'm not sure, in this rollout. I guess I'd have to know more details. The other thing, I guess, at Ridge and WAMS, I would like to have just a little bit more detail about the needs of the specific classrooms, and if there are some that somehow were on the list where we really don't need to have a set in that classroom all the time. If we're going to be trying to do some cost savings, maybe there's a way to just go through those buildings with a fine-tooth comb, and maybe we'll find a few places where we decide, initially maybe we could share and see how it goes or something for a couple of classes. I don't know, because I'm not familiar with all the different elective classes and stuff at those buildings. So I guess I like the WAMS first rollout the best. I feel like we have a lot of things coming up that are expensive that we want to be talking about. So finances are obviously an issue. So I guess because of some reservations that I have in terms of how the rollout will go, and how I want the professional development to go really well, and I want the rollout to go well. I'd rather be a little bit more cautious, in starting off, and maybe do WAMS first with a very careful inventory of exactly where it's needed there, and see how it goes, and then make the plan going forward. I don't think we have to have the whole plan figured out, when we start it. I think we just have to have an idea of where we're going with it when we start. So that's kind of where I stand.
Okay. Mrs. Korn, did you have?
Yeah, of course I do. I have to agree with Mrs. McEwen that I think the middle school would be a better place to start, because I'm just, the more I read, the more I look into, there's really no proof that computers enhance learning. And you can try to show me some, but I've done a lot of reading. There's no definitive studies that said if you give a kid a computer, they're going to learn better, or learn faster, or learn more. They may be able to look stuff up, they may be able to type on it, but it's not going to make them learn better, or learn faster, or learn more stuff. It might be fun. It might, distract, not distract, but I mean, have it differentiate in the classroom, like, oh, look, we're going to use the computers today, but I worry that it becomes like everyone's so focused on it. It's like the bright, shiny thing up here. And it's so fun, and it's and everyone's doing it. And the tremendous pressure we get from the state and from companies and from, the technology companies. If you don't use it, you're falling behind. If you don't do this, when all the heads of the technology companies' kids go to non-technology schools. Okay, so that's where Bill Gates' kids go to. They go to a school where there's no technology. So I don't know, do they know something more than we know? Now, I'm not anti-technology per se. I'm just afraid that it becomes like the ends instead of the means. It becomes like the holy grail of education when it really isn't. Like, really great teachers are what the holy grail of education is. Like having someone who inspires your children to do well, to It's not the technology, it's how you use it. So I'm afraid that we're putting technology ahead of what's really more important, and that's giving our kids the best education we can give them. And if that includes some technology, that's great. I mean, K through 3, I am completely against it. I just think these kids they're on technology all the time, and if you give a kindergartner, they'll run circles around you. With a laptop or with an iPad, and they don't need it in school. They need to learn how to write. They need to learn how to socialize. They need to learn other things besides being on technology, I think. 4th and 5th grade, like you said, I think they probably don't need one-to-one. They just need to be able to have access. I guess we shouldn't have, I mean, the others, I guess Mount Prospect, I don't know if they just only have the ones we bought them. I'm not sure why this disparity is the way it is. But I guess we can even that out, and I don't know if you can take, and then move some of the other Chromebooks up to the middle school. I'm not sure how that would work, or just buy the middle school all new ones and go from there. You know, I just worry. I just worry that, and it's a lot of money, and the money is not, and the cost is not like it's not nailed down enough for me. It's really, it's such like, it's just floating out there, like it could cost this, or it could cost, we don't know, like it's just, and there's so many other things with the rotating drop schedule, which is going to be, I don't know, I see it as being more better for our kids. It's something that we could use more than one-to-one technology right now for some reason. It just, and it's a cost that's out there that we can see in front of us that, you know, I don't know. It's just, I'm just very torn about it. I don't want people to think that I don't think it's important. I don't think we're falling behind. I think we have a great school system, but I don't think having everyone have computers is going to make it any better. So I don't want people to think you're falling behind. We have technology in the high school for those classes. We have the stuff that's already paid for, like the computers for the classes that really need it. And I think we should look into like what classes would really get the most benefit out of having, which classrooms would get the most benefit of having the Chromebooks or whatever technology in those classrooms for the kids to use, for the teachers to use. Like when we were in the younger classrooms with like, I don't see it as important for like a language arts class. Put it that way. I like books. I mean, I think it's, you know, it's nice to, you know, teach them that way. I don't know, so I feel like it's a little early to start putting money aside for this when there's still so many questions out there as to how well it would work and how much of a benefit it would be. I mean, you know, I gave you the New York Times article where a professor in the college doesn't even let, you know, there's so many studies that show that it's more of a distraction, and then the kids who actually take notes with pen and paper do better than typing the notes into a computer. It's not, you know, it's just a lot of questions out there. So, you know, so I'm really torn. I mean, I don't think, obviously we have some technology already, so I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm saying just let's focus it. Let's see if, you know, do it in a very efficient way, maybe, than just throwing it out like one-to-one and just seeing what would happen, like throwing something on the wall and see if it sticks, you know. I'd just rather be more focused about it. That makes sense?
I'm supportive of the technology initiative. I did always question sort of why, when WAMS is the most needy of the schools, that we didn't. I mean, I understand the safety net of starting out with the elementary schools because they don't need as many, but I don't know. I like the idea of WAMS getting the technology when they need it. Sort of being warehoused in one building, I think might be helpful to the district, considering some of our technology challenges. I do worry about the whole where Ridge is going to fit into this, especially if we're doing rotating drop schedule, thinking about it's almost kind of simultaneous in terms of the years and what that will do to the teachers, because we're asking a big ask for the teachers. For PD, teaching in a longer class period, now to PD for teaching with technology and Chromebooks. So I just worry, you know, what that would look like for them, because to me, that would stress me out, I think. Or it would inspire me. You know, I guess it depends on what kind of teacher and personality, what you think of the technology and the whole rotating drop schedule as a teacher. But I think that we need to sort of decide that and what that would look like for them. I think K-5, they already have the devices. Most of the schools, except for Mount Prospect, they definitely need more. I wouldn't mind seeing there be a little bit of a shift where the computers were K2, maybe even 3, where they were used more like a center and shared 2-to-1 or whatever, you know, even if it's only 10 in a classroom, I don't know. We saw, in one of the classrooms, we saw them, instead of a cart, they had buckets, like, almost like a computer charging bucket. Those are neat. And it seems like more manageable, where they can move them around a little bit better, but. You're up, Mr. Byrne.
I went to 5 classes. 2 of them were AP courses. In most of the classes, the 4 students were at a table, and there were 4 or 5 tables, so that the class wasn't interacting with the whole class. They were interacting with smaller groups. Most classes only had a few computers as well. I think the one class that had, each student had a Chromebook was in the middle school, but the high school, they only had 4 units in the class. The instruction was given in a couple of the courses before I got there, so I was watching them use the machines. I didn't see much interaction between the teacher and the students, or between one group of students and another group of students. It was almost like they were doing homework at home, or they had met someplace and were working on their homework assignments. I didn't see a classroom type of environment at all that I'd be familiar with. I do think that it would be very good to have the machines at home for doing problems, math problems and things. I worry about bringing those machines to the classroom, and for example, I mentioned before, who was the first president? I'd be bothered if that machine answered that question. So maybe Chromebooks, if they have a limitation, could prevent the kids from getting the answers to the problems on the machine while they're taking a test. But I think you can't avoid introducing technology and pushing it, but I think there's a ton of work that has to be done to understand it, and it certainly shouldn't be in all the classrooms. And I saw more at home work than classroom work when I went to the classrooms. I'm very thankful that the teachers and what have you were there to help present the program, but I didn't see what I consider classroom work going on.
Okay, let's see, I went to 6 classroom visits. I went to 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school, and 2 different grade levels at the elementary school. Actually, I guess I went to an extra one too, because I did go to a kindergarten class, but that wasn't Chromebooks. And in general, I was very, I guess I came away feeling more positive after the classroom visits than I had prior to that. And the students all were engaged, and I thought that, what they were doing was, very worthwhile in general. I did find, it was interesting because the same day I did go to a 3rd grade class and a 4th grade class, and I found that the 4th graders were really a lot more proficient at using the computer, and that could have just been with practice. They were a year older and so forth. I prefer, like many of the other board members, I also prefer the William Annan rollout first, because I feel that I guess I would prioritize the upper grades for the technology, and I feel that it is I would like to kind of not have it like so common at the elementary school, especially in the lower grades. And I think 4th and 5th grade I feel a little bit differently about, but I would like to kind of limit it at the lower grades. I also agree that if Mount Prospect has a lot fewer computers than the other elementary schools, it would be good to catch them up. I do have a concern about finances. Definitely there are some costs here that are still unknown, and we have a lot of other items going on with the budget, including new courses at Ridge High School. We have considerations regarding the rotating drop schedule. We have just what's going on in town. We have the potential for potentially down the road, potentially some new students. So I know I would certainly want to make sure that we could offer new courses as they come up, that we would be able to staff them and run them. And I also do think that, you know, I'm pleased that we're continuing to explore the rotating drop schedule, because I can definitely see some benefits with that. So I guess those are my comments.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. So it's what I would like to suggest is that we move forward with our budgeting like we would normally do in the context of all the priorities that have come up through various committee meetings over the course of the year so far, and see if we could find some room for some technology improvement, while at the same time continuing to develop some plans and maybe answers to some more of these issues that might be responsive to some of your concerns. Does that sound reasonable? Sound reasonable? Okay, great. I think I got some good direction, so I thank you for that. And definitely it comes down to the teachers. I agree 100%. And I think it's about trying to give them tools to be the best that they can be. So thank you again for your comments.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other topics for board forum? Okay, then we're up to adjournment. Can I have a motion? Dr. Dutton and Mrs. McEwen? And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Yes.